here we are. Today, BrackCast number 39.
We are.
We're going to be talking about cancel culture. Is free speech still free? And I'd say it's good timing because, not too long ago, Dave Chappelle just came out with The Closer. Is that what it's called? Is it called Closer? Closer or Closer? I think it's called
Closer.
I think it's The Closer. Yeah. Some people thought it was Closer, but I'm gonna say it's The Closer. And obviously, there's some what's a good word? Controversial stuff out of that special. I watched it myself a couple of times. I mean, I can't say that I don't know. I didn't even think it was that bad, but obviously understanding that it was for comedic purposes. But yeah, how about you share what you had in mind for tonight?
I was just more so thinking like in this day and age, obviously there's a lot of stuff now that one can't say, or there's certain views one can't have as opposed to back in the day when things were a little bit more wild west. So I was just wondering, like, man, like what are people allowed to say nowadays, and like what can get you canceled?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of unpack that whole thing.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'd say, people are saying that if you were to have movies nowadays like Rush Hour or White Chicks or In Living Color, if it was on now, or Mad TV, that they would be canceled immediately. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe because I'm a bit of the old school generation where I don't think it's gonna like offend people to the degree that people seem to be getting offended right now. But I don't know, man. Like, are people really avoiding certain topics or news media because of fear of being canceled? I don't think so. I don't necessarily see comedians avoiding a specific subject matter.
I don't think you froze there.
Oh, really? My bad.
Uh-oh.
What, you don't see me?
Hang on a second.
I hear you normally, so...
Some technical diffies.
What, you don't see me? Am I cool?
1 sec.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay. I'm gonna lower this down, so hopefully this doesn't take up the bandwidth, and we can keep the stream going on pretty smooth. Again, sorry guys for the clear difference in quality from what we normally would have for the stream, but relocation for tonight. So, obviously with Dave Chappelle and The Closer and the backlash of the LGBTQ community, a lot of us who've watched that special would say that it's sort of like a pre-construed or like a premeditated level of resistance or like combative kind of response. Without even watching the special, you kind of just knew people weren't going to be happy about it. You would question, did they watch the whole thing? Did they really take a perspective that... did they really take Dave's perspective in his jokes? Like if I'm not necessarily gonna do any spoiler alerts or any spoilers in this cast about like his specific comedic content from the special, but like if I think back, he very clearly defines, even in his previous specials, what he said and how he said them. And it was never in intent or even in direction of to insult or assault that community. So, it makes sense, at least the way he spelled it out. There's a lot of, like, I guess, different styles in his comedy, but nowadays it comes off anecdotal. It's as if it's educative. He touches on historical facts, and he'll say things, he'll premise some jokes by saying like, all right, well, this is true, this part is true, and then he'll go on to tell the rest of the bit. but then you don't really know where that fine line is when he's going back to sarcasm, or he's going back to his actual bit, or is he staying factual? Like, that's, I guess, that's what kind of makes it like risque, but in essence entertaining, because it's up to the listener, to the viewer, to decide, is he crossing that line, or is this the funny part, is this the punchline? Like, the one thing I guess I would say, spoiler alert, there's a line I'm about to say was about, Chappelle says that he hates when people claim that he punches down on people, when he punches down on a community like the LGBTQ community, or he punches down on women. There's my host. Thanks, bro. Oh, right. That was... Okay. And they're saying things like, yeah, he punches down on women. He punches down on the LGBT community. He openly states that he does not. I tend to agree with his perspective there, that he doesn't. Yeah, he will make he will describe certain scenarios that would involve, an individual in a certain scenario, predicament, or whatever that may be, whether it be just sharing a washroom, or his experiences, his encounters with certain people in his shows or on the street. And there's comedic aspects to the way he describes his experiences, but it's never in the sense that he looks at this movement or this community as if he has something spiteful or hateful towards them. He will just take a scenario, take its comedic aspects of it, like, and when I say comedic, it's like, it's not necessarily like misfortune or like pain, anguish, or detriment of the individual. It's more so just like an unlikely scenario or predicament where you can see maybe something that's kind of like out of the norm, that you would kind of look in a satire type of perspective and be like, well, that's a funny situation, And we touched on this on a previous podcast about timing, like when can anything really be made the subject of comedy, and we really resorted in that.
Oh man, sorry about all that.
That's all right. I was talking in depth.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, what happened?
No, I just had mad technical difficulties.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm here.
So what I was just going over right now is, like, without giving too many spoiler alerts, or spoilers from the special, I was talking about how he says he doesn't like it when his accusers say that he punches down on certain communities, where they say that he punches down on the LGBTQ community, or he punches down on women, when he doesn't. And one of the people who defended him say he doesn't punch down, he doesn't punch up, he punches lines, and he's a master at his craft. That was one of the key lines in that special that I loved, that I think everyone, gave him an ovation for. And I agree with that. But I was touching back on a previous topic that we had on the cast about how can anything be made the subject of comedy? And we kind of came to the conclusion that the answer is yes. It becomes funny, or it's an actual, like, successful comedic example, provided that the audience responds to it in the manner that is intended. If it's not funny, it was likely poorly executed, poorly created, and then therefore it's rejected. And then it doesn't go further than that. There was an attempt made still probably to make it funny, but if it's not funny, it's not funny.
Yeah.
And that's just a failed attempt or at creating a piece of comedy. So what is it about his specials, let's say, not even just the closer, but all his previous ones? Why is it that it feels like he's got this constant, immediate reaction of controversy? Like, why? Like, obviously it's funny. You have it's reached a level where it's on a special, so he's not touring around trying to test the bits and the materials. It's good enough where he knows he can do a special on Netflix and it would be successful. Check what mic is being used. Oh, good call, dude. I thought it was... Is it not the Yeti? Oh, this must be much better now.
Oh, that's nice.
My bad,
Voice
guys.
got all silky smooth.
My bad. Here I am thinking I sounded all nice already. Thanks, Mike. Okay. So, yeah. What? That's my question to you for now, Deji. So, what do you think about Dave Chappelle specifically? Why is he at the forefront of controversy, specifically with the LGBTQ community?
I think number one, he's a big figure. Like, it's Dave Chappelle. He's arguably the biggest comedian in the world right now. I mean, a lot of people would think it was Kevin Hart, but that was probably like 2-3 years ago. Right now, it's like Dave Chappelle.
Okay.
So I think just being on that scale naturally makes you a big target. And I think like just the subject matter itself is like, you know, it's like a landmine, like talking about that stuff. So I think the fact that he's that big, but he's not scared to go there. I think that's what's so polarizing about him, because a lot of comedians now, they wouldn't dream of touching that subject matter, you know, but it's like, and they wouldn't dream of touching it because they know that like something could potentially happen. They could get some backlash, whatever. But Dave lives in this like different sphere where he can create controversy, but he's seemingly like unaffected by it. Even though in the special he says, you know, I'm not, you know, all this shit doesn't mean anything to me, or sorry, he says like, oh, you know, sometimes this stuff like gets to me, but at the end of the day, I don't think like it affects him that much, just because he's already that much solidified as a legend. So he kind of has that leeway to just like be reckless and not like really care what people think. You know. So it's a number of different factors. I mean, just the fact that he is Dave Chappelle just naturally makes him a target, I think. You know, it's like the Kevin Hart thing. Like when Kevin was that big, and then, you know, that whole thing came out about him wanting to host the Oscars. Yeah. Just because of the size of like, you know, what his brand had become, like he would naturally be a target. Like someone would, you know, go out of their way to look up something he said in the past or something. Like, you're not gonna do that for a friggin' new like comic that's just making its way. Like, that's Kevin Hart. You're gonna try to like take him down, you know, if you're part of that group and you feel offended and you're like triggered by it.
So you're saying that let's take that Kevin Hart example where he was chosen to host the Oscars. Someone targeted him to look through all his old tweets to find some dirt.
Yeah.
And if it was anyone else, they wouldn't have spent the time.
Yeah, basically.
So if we try to equate that with Dave Chappelle, he makes bits about the LGBTQ community, who I guess within the last, I'd say, decade has really made a turn. You know, with like legislation, like more, you know, same-sex marriages is becoming more, or like unions and marriages are becoming more and more things spread across the states. It's becoming more widely accepted, even not just like in government, but like there's a lot more of those shows on TV, I guess, even too, or like really a lot of positive support of like, you know, gay or lesbian characters on certain shows, movies.
Yep.
So they're on the uprise. Do you think because they're on the rise of like success in their movement, which is a great thing, do you think that is one of the reasons why Dave Chappelle targets them?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a targeting thing. I just think he notices a discrepancy, you know, and I think that's what people got mixed up in what was the message of a special, you know, because the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa, this dude is like kind of going hard. Like he's trying to like set a record for how many people can I piss off. But And the comedy was funny, but then the second time I watched it, I started to realize, oh shit, yeah, like the majority of the special, he's just pointing out the fact that he's actually like jealous of like the progress they're making, you
Yes.
know? So
Yeah.
when you start to like look at all the examples of that and then look at what's happening now with the outrage to it, it's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what this guy is talking about, you know? So
Like
yeah.
when I think about, obviously because we watched the closer, the most recent, and I watched it twice, and I go back to the last one that I can remember of him, like the bit that I remember the most is
Yeah.
the one involving the Me Too movement.
Yep.
Like when he's talking about his movie ideas. Do you remember like
Space
the
Juice.
soup? No, no, that was the closer. But I mean, the other
Oh,
one
Sticks
with,
and Stones?
was it
Or
Sticks and Stones, where he talks about the superhero who can only save people if he
oh, he rapes.
assaults them? Right, that.
Oh my God, that was
Right?
terrible.
So at that time, again, media, forefront of news, was Me Too. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's his material. I mean, to stay as risque as possible, to stay as like up to
yeah,
date, relevant, you're gonna take current news for your material, right? I guess that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah. He stays in the fire
Yeah,
and the hot topics.
because like BLM, super high in that movement too. He did that special with um, Floyd, right? Was it Floyd? Lloyd? It's Floyd, right? Man, forgive me. George Floyd,
George Floyd.
right? Where he did the,
Hmm?
what is it, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, 27 seconds or something
Eight
like that?
minutes.
8 minutes? 6 minutes?
Huh?
7 minutes? Long
Yeah,
enough.
it was like
Too long.
like a time a run time or something.
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, it was the time, and it was basically the amount of time he was on his chest
Yeah,
while he was being held down. So,
yeah,
and everyone is, everyone probably more so assumed that that was going to be another comedic special, funny special, but I don't know. I don't even know if I would equate it to that. Yeah, he had some lines in there that would warrant some laughs, but a lot of it was more like educative,
hmm.
right? His opinion on
Yeah,
things, his perspective on what happened. Yeah, he had some little lines there, but it wasn't. I wouldn't consider it the same as like The Closer or Sticks and Stones or whatever
no,
his other stuff that was on Netflix.
no, it's not.
So he
Yeah,
has an opinion. Each time he has an opinion about something that is relatively current, and then I guess at that point he makes a choice. Does he want to take his platform and use it for educative perspective sharing, or is he going to use it for comedic purposes?
yeah. I think like I've just always marveled at the way that he is able to do that. Like just stay making jokes about subject matter that would get him in so much trouble. But like if you step outside of outrage objectively, it's still like so funny, you know?
Yeah,
So that's I mean that's obviously why he's Dave Chappelle. Like that's a huge that requires a huge talent, like a huge comedic talent. But I've always found that if you are able to step outside of your outrage and just like listen to what he's saying, it's actually hilarious. You know,
yeah,
like because like when you brought up that he rapes but he saves joke, like that's a horrible
that's
joke.
horrible. Yeah,
But like if you step outside of like how bad that is obviously in real life and you just look at it from a joke aspect, it's like, oh, he actually in a weird way like made us empathize with Bill Cosby, which obviously no one does because like it's Bill Cosby, but like he framed it in such a way like it made you think about it,
yeah,
you know. But yeah, it's because there's a comedian named Andrew Schultz,
yep. I know
and
him.
he always says like the mark of a good comedian is when they can make a joke that doesn't agree that it doesn't align with your like ideals or biases, but it makes you take pause and be like, oh shit, well, God damn, I didn't think about it that way. You know, it makes you like be on the other side for like like think about it for a second. You know, that's what good comedy is supposed to do. It's supposed to be like, oh well, shit, he does have a point there.
So it's supposed to challenge your own perspective on something
Yep.
and make you see the other side of it, but still find humor.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what I found, okay, maybe not specifically Dave. Let me think about his material. Because yeah, like straight up comedians, like up and coming comedians, like kind of building up to that GOAT level status. Not at the GOAT level status yet. They touch on scenarios and experiences that everyday people will experience, and then try to spin it like a sarcastic, funny sense. Like, you know, something, let's say either you and I can experience, like, you know, with it could be racism out in the real world, something we might come across, or dealing with, let's say, like a Karen, you know, in real life. So they'll take an example that an example that any of us would likely encounter, and then try to spin it off like it's like the example that I can think of is The Simpsons, where Homer is watching a comedian on TV, a black comedian. Okay. And he's like, white people be driving like this. And Homer's laughing. and then he's like, but black people be driving like this. Whatever. He's like leaning back with his arm out the window. And Homer's like, it's funny because it's true. Like that. Right? That whole bit scenario is kind of like the summary of what, I guess, an up and coming, you know, not GOAT level status comedians do. They touch on that stuff, regular stuff, and try to spin it in a way that's like sarcastically funny. Yeah. But then you take GOAT levels, and I'm saying GOAT levels as in like the star power, like the Louis C.K. or I would say Schultz too is now at that level because he's widely known YouTube, and now he's got his. He didn't make it to Netflix, but he did this like equivalent YouTube thing where he was trying to get on Netflix. Yeah. Obviously Dave Chappelle, Cosby, you know, Kevin Hart. I don't know. Kevin Hart, I still think he's still trying to use the same kind of bit as that Simpsons example I talked about.
Yeah, Kevin has been very vocal about the fact that he will never touch that subject matter.
He's trying to stay clean, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But at the expense of his family. He'll use his kids, he'll use his wife. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the other, there's the alternative. So because you're not going to hit the general public and try to put them in the line of fire, let's say, for the comedy, then he'll use his own personal relationships, because then that way he's not targeting a normal person, he's not targeting a community, it's people under his umbrella. And obviously he's probably talked to them about it too. Okay, my bit's gonna be about this, and like, are you gonna be okay with that? And they probably have this big agreement, right? A lot of people do that. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Louis C.K., did you see that one, his comeback?
I have not seen it.
Okay, that's on Netflix too? Maybe not. I don't know. Okay. But he was shunned from the community. He was outed. He was canceled. He was definitely canceled during the Me Too movement, enough to the point where he left the US.
Oh, he left the US.
He left the US for a considerable amount of time. I don't know the exact number.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Enough for him to think about. Well, he needed to get out of the public eye. He was, definitely openly accused of sexual assault, and his comeback was addressing that. Like he actually used what was the reason why he was outed. He used it in his return special, in his comeback special. So
yeah, which is what like the greats do.
Yeah. They're in the line of fire. They would put themselves in the line of fire. Yeah. At risk of, let's say, punching down to be regarded like they're punching down. But that's the thing too. I think back to all of Dave Chappelle's like specials, and even Closer. I watched it twice. It's true. I don't see how anyone can see what he's saying. His jokes, the actual words that are coming out, and feel like he's punching down on the community.
I mean, it's obviously if I'm not a part of that community, so I can't speak for them.
Right.
But to the outside person, like, a lot of those jokes are obviously funny, but I always give, you gotta acknowledge people's feelings at the same time. It's like, okay, well, maybe you do have a legitimate cause to be upset, but is it to the extent where you're now like walking out from your job upset? Like, how upset are you? Because then it's like, okay, you could have done that for a couple of other things that were like more egregious, you know? So it's just like, where do people draw the limit? Like, what is considered like actually off limits, you know? And again, goes back to a lot of stuff he was talking about in the closer. Like, there's been a lot of things to be outraged about, but no one is proposing a walkout from their job or anything like that. But it's like, okay, when a black comedian, who's at this level, starts talking about the subject matter, and it's, some of it is obviously rooted in some very bitter truth, then why are you that upset?
Well,
like,
do you think then, because Dave, so you made a great point, we are not in that community specific, that under that umbrella of that community, not that we don't support it, but yeah, we are not an individual identified with that community, so we don't definitely don't have the same perspective. So when I look at Louis C.K., who was specifically canceled not because he made jokes about Me Too, but because his actions put him in direct kind of line of perceived assault. Like, he was actually like a perpetrator, right? So I get it. He got canceled for that. Dave Chappelle, as far as his words will go in his jokes, we don't have any kind of news anyway of him participating in actual hate or assault, or you know what I mean? Like, sure, maybe that one story he gave about beating up on this lesbian woman, but he explains is that he didn't know it was a woman or a lesbian at all. Like, he just thought he was fighting another dude, right?
Yeah, and it surprised me because, like, I don't even think that part of the special is what the outrage was about.
Oh, no, definitely not that. It's not. I
It was
don't
just
think
like
so.
crazy to me.
Well, the thing is, I can't even pinpoint. The one example Mike gave when we watched it here was like, okay, definitely spoiler alerts, guys. We're talking about specific content now from Closer, but like when he describes the experience of having to share a washroom with one. He talked about how some states have a rule that you are required to use the bathroom that matches with your birth gender, the gender that you were born, like in that requirement. And then he goes on to say, like, he's standing at a urinal, and then if a woman or someone who looks like a woman comes in, hikes up a skirt, and then pulls out a big penis, then he'd be like, oh my god, he won't freak out, like, oh, thank goodness he's in here with me and my family is safe. Right? And then he takes on the other side. I would much rather it be someone who I think is a man comes in, backs up into the urinal, and we think he must be a war veteran. Thank you for your service, right? Like, so I look at that scenario. Okay, so that's supposed to be a scenario. Again, I'm thinking in terms of comedy, a scenario that we can relate, that we can identify with, because any of us can potentially come across that experience. Likelihood, though, is probably very low. Joe Rogan neck segment. Okay. Yeah, with the Joe Rogan neck. But he was, I forget what he was using that for, though, in what joke that was, the Joe Rogan neck. But what I'm trying to say is he was using a scenario that, yes, potentially all of us normal people would come across, maybe on like 1 in 100 kind of chance. But if you are in the LGBTQ community, that's something you experience normally. Like that's something you have to, if you ever to go out in public and you needed to use the washrooms, that is the predicament you will find yourself in normally, regularly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his audience, as we said, there were two women near the front of that audience who we suspected, based on appearance, obviously, that they could be part of that community, and they weren't nearly as boisterous with their laughter and positive response as the rest of the crowd, which would we, again, based on appearance, would identify them as heterosexuals. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Even though I mean, like,
yeah.
That's funny because, like, anyway, sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, okay, well, what does a gay person look like? But no, that's like another conversation.
No, that's why I specifically worded it in the way that I did.
Yeah.
Who we would have suspected based on appearance. I'm not gonna go through with that definition. I think it was intentional by the producers to place them there. Now it makes me think too that, like, it's part of Dave's calculation too, like, how far he can go, what he can get away with.
Yeah. I don't know. They seem to be like laughing at certain parts, but there was definitely other parts where they were giving very heavy stone-faced vibes.
When the material was about the LGBTQ community, right? Yeah. But I mean, they paid to be there, and he gives examples of other members of that community who confronted him out in public, who confronted him at a club, who confronted him at a comedy show, or in the parking lot or alleyway,
Yeah. I just, like, my thing is, okay, so what's the purpose of comedy? Like you said earlier, like, is comedy allowed to make fun of anything?
Yeah, we concluded that it is yes. Like the timing, let's say, like, how when people make a joke amongst your friends, amongst your circle of friends, and then you say something that's very controversial, no one responds, and then you reply with too soon,
Yeah.
Cody back there. Right? So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of us have come through similar example like that, but, like, is that it? Is that what happens, though? Like, there's no such thing as too soon if you're a professional? You can make it funny?
Yeah, I think, like, the mark of good comedy is, like, again, another mark of good comedy is, like, being able to just take anything, regardless of how tragic or foul it is, and just, like, wording it in a way that lets you see, like, a comedic aspect in it, So yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's supposed to be off limits. It's really like, okay, now how sensitive are you? Because, like, there's sometimes, like, comedians like Russell Peters or whatever, like, or like one of these random comedians will just, like, make a joke about black people, and I'll be like, damn, yo, all right. But it doesn't make me feel like, oh, like, they don't like black people or they hate black people or anything. But I don't know. It's like everyone's gonna feel a little, ooh, damn. Like, everyone's a target, that's the point of comedy. Like, no one's safe.
Do you think, I know we're not stuck, but right now we've been focused just on comedians, but, like, do you think comedians, even if you want to go specifically with Dave Chappelle, because of their fame status, that they are easier targets for cancel culture? Like, is that the point? Like, people are trying to find a means to cancel Dave Chappelle because of his controversy in his comedy? You can't cancel. I don't think you can cancel Dave Chappelle, right?
I think the weird thing about, like, trying to cancel a comedian is, like, they're kind of supposed to offend you.
Yeah.
It's like that's part of their job description. It's like, offense is a tool that's a part of their act, It's, I mean, not like, obviously it's not the whole act, but it's definitely like a lot of times in there.
Yeah.
So it's different if it was like a person in a real position of power, like a business, like a business company, or like finance or whatever. Like someone is just in a position of power and it is abusing their power, and like taking advantage of women and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that's the person you need to cancel, and you need to also call the police. But
Well,
like a
yeah.
comedian, like really?
No, wait. So wait, what was your example for why are we calling police on? Because they actually perpetrated, right? Like they committed the
Yeah,
offense. Okay. Well, that's the thing. So with what you just said, it makes sense. Louis C.K. He was caught. Like he was accused of of the act. Therefore,
yeah,
he was easily canceled and outed, right?
yeah,
You look at Dave Chappelle, though, he has not taken action to put him under that, for him to be canceled. Everything has been just through his comedy, his actual platform of jokes, right? Like, they're not catching him say something in public. They're not catching him say something in his Twitter. It's all in his specials, in his comedy specials, right? So they're in the framework of, hey, this is a comedic production. But
mm,
look at Kevin Hart. He tweeted years ago something about not letting his son play with a doll, right? He ever
yeah,
catches his son playing with a doll, he's gonna bash him over the head with the dollhouse or something like that. Which is obviously, well, I guess it's not obvious because it's a tweet. You can't necessarily put in, parenthesis sarcastic or sarcasm. Like, he was canceled for that, and it worked. Like, he had to back out of the Oscars, right? So what's up with
yeah,
that? Was that free speech? Was that he wasn't he didn't perpetrate? He didn't actually, like, he wasn't caught in the act of doing something. He just made a statement on Twitter.
yeah. And I think a lot of the problem with that a lot of people have is like, it's one thing to get offended. It's another thing to now use your position to not try to negatively impact somebody's like career.
Uh huh.
I think that's when like that's what a lot of people have a problem with. Like that's what the whole like canceling, like cancel culture is like. It's like the person that gets offended, they use their position to like leverage some sort of backlash, like to whoever they like offended them
Uh
or
huh.
whatever. So that's like another layer of it. Um, but yeah, man, it's a
Hum?
sad situation. I just wonder if, because I think about like books like, have you read like what is it, 1984?
No, but I know what it's about.
So I think in all these like books and stuff, like there's a whole suppression of like speech that you notice, like that is a trend in all these like dystopian fucking stories and shit. So I just wonder if it's gonna get to a level where, because I have a burner. You know what Medium is?
Uh, Explain it to me. I mean,
So Medium
that
is like
word is
a
useless.
website where you just
Oh,
medium.com.
the short story stuff, or you can
Yeah.
write stuff.
So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, so it's like a short story platform. It's just like all text, or well, you can add pictures and stuff, but it's a place where you can like read articles and shit. So I have a burner account,
Yeah.
and I like just write like crazy stuff on there, just like stuff from work, just stuff like I need to get off my mind. And I wrote something that actually got flagged and got like erased.
Okay.
So it's like I was like, wow, this platform is supposed to be like a free speech platform, but even here, like I'm being censored. And it just made me think like, are we gonna get to a point where it's not even like cancel culture, it's like a whole suppression of like you just can't like say this, this, and this, and this, and this. Like you can't say these words anymore. There's like words obviously now that we can't say just because of
Yeah.
how offensive they are.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if it's gonna get to a point where it's like, okay, like what?
Well,
You know?
okay, yeah, that's another thing. Like, obviously, yeah, even Twitch has terms of service things that keywords we're not allowed to say, things allowed with type, keywords we're not allowed to type. But like that scenario you gave, I mean, I guess you're not gonna give a little bit of detail as to what it was written about, subject matter wise, nah.
Oh no.
All right, okay. So I mean, the fact that you even in your mind though, why the burner account and why not just you? Like, why wasn't something you could have just done and then you would have been flagged anyway? Same result. It's just it would have been tied to you. Like, the fear in itself to create a burner account for that purpose. Again, you're taking part in what you thought was a free speech platform. But what prompted you to start a burner account anyway?
Well, I have a lot of burner accounts just in general on social media. Like
Right.
I have like 5 Instagrams. And I
Yes.
have like 4 different Twitters just because like I have like different, like different expressive avenues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like be it photography, podcasting, whatever. So that's like an element of it. But I was also trying to it was also because the nature of my work is there's a lot of health information I deal with.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of confidentiality agreements I have to sign at work.
Okay,
So
fair.
that was another aspect of it. It's
Fair.
like, okay, I'm talking about like work stuff. And I
see.
changed the names of like whoever. So like
Yeah.
that was like a major aspect
Of
of
course. Okay. So one of the things we talked about earlier, once you messaged me and told me about cancel culture, like as tonight's topic, we were talking about the difference between what you just said, where it was in response to something that was said that could have been offensive or potentially hurtful or, yeah, malicious, versus upright filtration at the very beginning before it's even shared, which is censorship, right? So cancel culture is always it's a reaction. It's been witnessed, so the action has or the action of the words or whatever has already been received and witnessed, and then we retaliate.
Yeah.
And then the difference, like the fine line between that and censorship, where you will prevent it, it's preventative of that even occurring. So are we trying to maintain free speech like that? Like anyone should still be able to say what they want to say, but will have to suffer the consequences? Is etiquette and being polite, is that going to be a universal thing that everyone has to follow the certain terms of service?
What's Japan saying? What's their free speech like over there? Like,
I think that's like in the culture that you never say anything that's meant to offend, isn't it? It's more like a politeness factor. Is anything really offensive? Anything that's offensive is like in the shadows. You know what I mean? It's like under the table. It's under the blanket. Like look at their entertainment industry. Like it's not like it's out there. Like I don't know, man. Like I can't speak from personal experience, but
yeah, and the reason I'm asking is because like I wonder if that's just a culture thing.
yeah.
It's like, yo, we're super obsessed with free speech over here. I'm not against like a certain level of like moderation.
Yeah.
Like, yo, some motherfuckers just be saying some wild shit. Did you hear about that race war
What? When?
on Twitter?
No.
So I'll give you a little backstory. So like, there was a video of like, I think like some brown people like dancing or something.
Okay.
And someone retweeted that video. I think this black guy retweeted that video and posted the caption, "I know it smells crazy in there." So like, after that, a whole bunch of brown people like started just shitting on this dude and just shitting on black people, yo. Like, it was like crazy.
Okay.
Like they were talking about like, oh yeah, at least we're not like shit-eating baboons. Like, yo, bro, like crazy shit.
Okay.
And I'm just like, yo, censor them motherfuckers. That's nuts.
Well, okay. Really? Did you find it funny?
What they were saying?
The back and forth, like, was it funny to see how ridiculous this was getting?
Like it can get ridiculous without it being like, okay, that's like hate. You know, it gets to a certain level. It's like, no, that's legitimate, like, hate.
Okay, well, let's start with the first statement. I know it smells in there. Right.
And I know it smells crazy.
Crazy in there. Okay. So, okay, you take that statement. Obviously, there's racism involved, stereotype involved. Is there sarcasm in there? It's tweeted. It's in a public forum, and he knows it's. I don't know if it's a burner account or not. If it's identified with somebody who can, personally vouch for that account. But like, what do you think? Like, was that his intent to rile things up, or was he just speaking his mind, thinking it was okay to say that?
No, he was definitely like, oh, some bullshit. Like, he was definitely like,
he was trolling to start some shit, right?
This is gonna hit.
Yeah.
It's gonna go viral.
So he did. He got viral. I don't even think was it taken down?
No, it was up. It was up for a bit.
Okay, so like his account, if we're gonna call this being canceled, his account would have been blocked, banned.
Yeah.
At least temporary. He would have been banned. His account would have been taken down, and all his tweets removed, right?
Yeah.
And we're gonna assume it didn't. So no. I can't say that was canceled.
No, I never said he was canceled.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to analyze like what this particular individual went through. So then he got backlash. Okay. People attacked him personally. But then it got to the point where people attacked his community.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is at that point just full circle of the racism, right?
Yeah. It was like y'all should have died and shit. Like it was like that. Oh, jeez.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. So, what do you think? What's your stance there? Like, should all of that have been taken down?
At the same time, I don't know if it's like you take it down. I think you just leave it up there like it's flagged.
And then you like disable further comments?
I don't know, because I always feel like people should be responsible for like what they say online, right? So
yeah,
if you're saying some type of shit like that, like it should show up somewhere. You know, like it should show up as like this person in your community has been identified as using like hateful speech.
Uh-huh.
Blah 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 blah. You know, like other people should be able to see that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what should happen. Because, like, you can't just be saying crazy shit. Like, even if you have, like, hate in your heart, man, bro, just, like, deal with that shit by yourself. Like, nobody else needs to see that.
Okay, so. You raise a good point about being able to identify who it's coming from, right?
Yeah.
So, let's take, for example, basketball game. You got hecklers in the stands. You got players getting heckled. Some guy shouts something from the stands. Player looks out. Who said that? Looking for the perpetrator, and then that guy's hiding. That guy's like crouches down, and then everyone's trying to hide among the rest of the audience, right? But you might get some tattletales pointing out. It was this guy. They start pointing out all the guy, like whatever. Even though we don't know his name, we are able to identify him. We got his face. You can find out his seat number. You can find him later. You could at least we can identify who it was. Now back to the burner accounts. Back to the trolls on Twitter, back to YouTube comments. I personally don't think an anonymity should be allowed in a forum or a platform where opinions like comments are permitted, are encouraged even. Right? Why allow the option of anonymity at all?
I mean, I think it depends, like the type of forum. If it's social media, I think anonymity should definitely be allowed because like there's a beauty in anonymity. You know, some people aren't like just depending on their circumstances, just don't have the freedom to access social media like the rest of us do. So
Okay.
they need like that anonymous, you know, level of like secrecy to like maybe protect themselves or protect their family, right? If it's a site like LinkedIn or something, that's different. Like you can't be anonymous. Like we gotta know who you are. But if it's like Instagram, like whatever, you know.
Well, take for example, YouTube video. Someone does a cover of a song, does a horrible job. Let's just say, and then commenter goes on and trashes this cover, calls it trash, calls the singer trash, and offends like lots of insults. The fact that I'm gonna likely believe that this account is, if you're gonna be vulgar about it and you're gonna be actually really malicious with your words, likely the account can't be traced to an actual person, right? You're gonna say it's a troll.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why should that be allowed? Or is it up to the content creator to go in there and be like, I don't like this comment, I will delete it? Like obviously the content creator has the choice to report it, to flag it, to delete it, whatever it is.
Yeah, and others on the platform have that option as well. You know, I think it's up to your community to moderate you too. You know, it's like, yo, I don't want to see this, and you can do that on these platforms. You can like report shit. So,
versus not
I
even
think the
allowing
comments should
them.
be allowed. Like my thing is, I think the comments, like if it's an open social media platform like Instagram, I think the comment, like any platform really, I think that your comments should be allowed so everybody knows what's up. Everybody knows who they're dealing with. You know, like I would rather know you were like racist or like fucked up than just like not know and just be like thinking everything's cool. Like let's just all have all the cards on the table.
But again, by allowing people to have multiple accounts, or at least making up a username that has nothing identifiable with it, where it doesn't tie back into an actual identification, puts you now in the scenario of you being in the crowd, hidden in the crowd. You're just a voice without a source. Be like, LeBron, you're trash! And then like you look around and like, who said that? And you got like thousands of people in the stands.
It's Jordan.
It's Jordan. It's right, you know, or just even a Jordan fan or a Kobe fan, or it's even his own fan. He just wants his attention, right? But like, I personally, I think I'm on the stance that anonymity in any forum that will welcome and promote, especially like a communicative exchange between content creator and audience, I am for like identification being involved in all comments.
Yeah.
Because it holds you accountable. Right? You just get a bunch of trolls. Let's say that Twitter guy, I know it smells crazy in there. I don't know. So let's say
that's just
let's say that dude.
I'm sorry, that's a hilarious thing to say. That's just a funny.
I bet you that dude had an account that doesn't tie in with him identical, or he might have multiple.
No, it looked like just some dude that was just tweeting. He wasn't anonymous. It was just a black guy. Like his name was there and everything.
Okay, so it's identifiable. At least he's standing by his word, joke or not. And anyone who has retaliation can direct it to him specifically. I mean, that's the consequences of your freedom of speech. That is the consequence, right? Otherwise, what's the consequence if you're a troll?
Just thinking of like, the thing is like, man, the joke can be like stereotypical if it's funny, yo. Like that's the thing. Like, everyone's willing to laugh at themselves if the joke is just funny. Because I remember, what's that one Dave Chappelle joke? He was like like a white person and a black person meet each other, and black person is like, "Hey, Whitey, did you, steal somebody's culture on your way here?" And then the white person's like, hello, Blackie, did you burn your lips on a crack pipe on your way to miss your job interview?" That shit.
Now, is it funny because he said it? Like, if it wasn't him, if it was Louis C.K. who said that, or Bill Burr, would it still be funny?
It wouldn't be, like, obviously, like, it's also like who it's coming from.
Yeah.
Who it's coming from is also really important too, but it's like,
he openly admits he hates white people.
I don't know.
He actually fully took on. He's like, he's ready to take on any kind of retaliation if people say you hate white people, and he would flat out say he does. Like, he said so. But it's because it's so common now. It's such a common ground thing to hate not white people, but obviously white supremacy, right? That's what he hates.
Yeah. So, like, do you think that you want to live in a world where comedians come up with material that isn't based around, like, race or gender?
I don't think I care. I don't think I care what subject matter the comedy is stemmed from, because if it's effective, it would make me laugh, and that's the point.
So, okay, so you wouldn't care if it was involved or it wasn't. That's what you're saying. If, like, they use that material.
Like, if they want to use the material, if they do so effectively and it works, like how I laugh at Dave Chappelle's racist jokes and Bill Burr's racist jokes, or, because I listen to, let's say, another comedian doing impressions. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's not, but it's all based on racial stereotypes. So no, I don't. It's not that when a bad comedian makes a racist joke and I don't laugh, I don't blame the racism. I blame the comedian, right? Because we've heard good comedians, Dave Chappelle, whoever, makes racist jokes, and we laugh. So it's not the racism that's funny. It's not the context of the scenario that's funny. It's the comedian. Because you can take what's that guy, Mitch Hedberg, the one-liner guy, and he just takes play on words, puns. He'll make a pun, and it's funny. But sometimes other people make a pun, and it's not funny. I don't hate puns. I'm not against puns. I'm not pro puns. But if they make me laugh, I like that comedian. If they don't make me laugh, it's the comedian that I'm not going to be a fan of, right?
True.
When I hear a bad racist joke, it doesn't make me want to stop listening to racism jokes. It makes me want to stop listening to that comedian.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So, free speech, cancel culture. I just realized, having that title even in this podcast, they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. Because free speech is
actually,
in the... Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I think cancel culture is on a separate spectrum. I think it's like free speech and like censorship. That's like the two ends. Because like when I think of censorship, it's like, yo, we're smothering everything here. Whereas free speech is like true free speech is like, yo, it's no man's land. Like, you say whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like the consequences of that is when you get like cancel culture versus like, I don't know, what would the opposite of that be? Critical acclaim.
Yeah. Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
But so Kyle was saying earlier, example, some racist guy goes up to your face and makes he just yells a bunch of racist stuff against you to your face. He has every right to do that. But that doesn't mean he can't get knocked out in the face afterward for saying those things. He has the freedom of speech to be able to say whatever he wants to say, but he still has to suffer the consequences upon what he said.
Okay, well, see, that there's a subtle aspect in that like, even if he said some like cool shit to you, his physical behavior is like fucked up. It's like, yo, why are you like in my face like talking to me like this?
Well,
you know?
Right.
So it's like,
yeah.
If he said those things just to you in a normal conversation, I think, yeah, he does have that right.
Yeah.
It's like, how is he saying them to you, though?
Oh,
it's
right.
Are you making me feel threatened when you're saying this? Or are you just saying this to me and expressing how you feel?
Well,
it's like, okay, if that's how you feel, then fuck you, whatever. All right, cool, whatever.
Well, let's just say those two people, Twitter, the first black guy to comment on that post, and then the next brown guy to react. Let's just say instead of Twitter, they're standing across themselves across the street. They're on the same street, opposite sides. One's on the one sidewalk, the other guy's on the other sidewalk. They're not yelling at each other, they're just talking, but they're saying the same content.
Mm-hmm.
Either of them should have full freedom to say whatever they want to say, right? Nothing's threatening here. No one's crossing the road. No one's yelling or making advances. They can say whatever they want to say. And they're being identified with the words, too. So that's what we're counting as freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
Say whatever you want to say. So you're right. Cancel culture and freedom of speech, I think, yes, very much so. Very different spectrum. Because, go back to Kevin Hart in that tweet. He had freedom of speech to write that on Twitter, and it stayed on Twitter for how long, right? Nobody took it down, deleted it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some people might have made some comments or replies that didn't take his sarcasm as comedic. Mm. But years down the road, it was used against him to take his livelihood. Mm. Kill a man by taking his livelihood. So he survived, he's strong. That's what he said. But like, I'm pretty sure we both agree there that he should have kept the Oscars, right?
Oh, for sure. Like, that was so stupid. That was literally an assassination.
Yeah.
That was like, oh, Kevin Hart's gonna host the Oscars. All right, let's go like dig up some shit on him. Like, that took someone going out of their way to find some shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, purposefully to impact that. That was so foul about that shit.
Yo,
you had mad time to do this.
Right. Okay, what about Trudeau Blackface?
Exactly. It's like same thing. Like, why did that come out? Like, we should have been known about this before he even got elected to like whatever. It's like, why are you like, if you were sitting on this, then like, what was your end goal?
Okay, so obviously he was already prime minister.
Yep.
And afterward, he was still prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
Some media backlash. But, and obviously the other parties used it to try and push their campaign. Is this the guy you want to represent? Whatever. But, he apologized that it was a mistake. Uneducated. I would take that. Like, if you're young, he's not the only one who did this in like Halloween type of scenario, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was actually trying to dress up as a specific person or just the color of that person. I don't know. Like, I remember seeing another example when that came up. There was Julianne Hough. I don't know how you pronounce it. She's a dancer. Very popular in social media. She was on like So You Think You Can Dance and all these dance shows, Dancing with the Stars. And she liked Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
Show. And for Halloween, she dressed up as her favorite character from Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
And her favorite character was black.
Okay.
So she wore an orange prison uniform, or get up, and she painted her face and her hands dark.
Damn.
Okay? And this is her representing her favorite character in the show. So, she got backlash for that. But why?
Okay, my thing is like, if I wanted to dress up as motherfucking Captain America, I would paint my fucking face white. It's like, I would just wear the fucking outfit. Like, why am I painting my skin white? Like what's that about? Like,
Okay.
that's not normal people behavior.
All right, but
You know?
dude, if you're going to, if you're dressing up to be Phoenix or
Who's Phoenix? From X-Men?
from X-Men, or like Poison Ivy, right? You would make your hair red. The hair is red, not the costume. Sure, you could just wear the green costume. You could have the same hair as you normally have, but the hair is red. So you change your hair to red. So where do you draw the line? You just not allowed to change your skin because it's a topic of race? Is that like an etiquette thing?
That is specifically why. Because like everyone can change their hair. Like black people change their hair, white people change their hair, Asian people change their hair, all types of different colors. But like skin is like the thing that is causing all of these problems since like the beginning of time. So it's like, why go out of your way to now like take it like to that level? If I wanted to be Poison Ivy, it makes sense to have my hair red because that's a defining characteristic of that comic book character. She's got Ivy shit on her skin and her hair is red. You know, if I wanted to be Shaft, it would make sense as a white dude to wear a fucking thing that would make my head look bald. It wouldn't make sense to fucking paint my whole skin black and say, hey, I'm Shaft.
Are you ready? I got you on this one. You ready though? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Michael Jackson impersonators.
Okay.
They all paint themselves white.
I mean, that's an outlier.
And he's black.
That's an outlier. That's already like that's just like
Well, I guess
that's
because
Michael Jackson.
It identifies specifically with him because he specifically made his skin white. So I guess it's okay that way because Michael Jackson, made the choice to make his skin white. If he was white the whole time, do you think? Like you see Elvis Presley impersonators, they're not trying to look Caucasian, right?
They got the hair, the glasses.
I've seen brown and black Elvis Presley impersonators. They stay brown and black. But Michael Jackson, they all put white makeup on.
And you know what? Like, even though that's an outlier, even though that's just like Michael Jackson, there's black people that dress up as Michael Jackson and just wear the gloves. And like, Michael Jackson has a costume.
Yes, he does.
Like the putting on of the white skin or whatever, that's just like another level. It may not be like
of dedication
at the same it may not be like at the same level as like the other blackface shit, but it's like,
why not?
Just because it's Michael Jackson, it's Michael Jackson.
Okay, he's a one-off.
Michael Jackson's just an out.
He's just a one-off. I'm trying to think of another one.
It's why Kanye can say, I got a light-skinned friend. I got a light-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson. Got a dark-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson. It's like the same thing. It's like you can't say that about anyone. So it's just like, right.
It's because he specifically, like I said, he bleached his skin, right? Like he made the transformation himself. Therefore, you can choose which one you want to dress up as. Because Michael made the choice.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking about it. Like, if I wanted to, like, I'm thinking of like, who is a cool white person I'd want to be? Fucking Doctor Strange. I'm not painting my skin white,
bro.
I would just have the hair.
People who dress up as Trump put orange makeup on. What about that?
I mean, I would just put a Trump mask on. Like I'm not painting my skin orange. like in my hands. I would put the wig. I would be like, I just want to let everyone know. You know, I would do this a lot. But like, I'm not fucking painting my skin orange. That's
Let
crazy.
me think, man. Let me
like
think.
the only reason I would paint my skin is if I wanted to be like the Hulk or something. I'm the Hulk. I'm painting my skin green.
You make
that
it
makes
green.
sense.
Or if you're the genie, you paint your skin blue.
Blue. That makes sense.
It's part of the costume. The skin is part of the costume. So why but you would still identify the skin with any character.
Do you know any green people?
Oh, they're one us too? They're one us because their skin isn't black or white?
No, there's just no green people. Like, we're not having a race issue over green and blue people. Like, they don't exist. So it's like...
Well, we're not having an actual... I don't know actually any black-colored people. Because black, the actual black... Like, nobody is the actual color black.
Okay, but that's sentiment. We all, like, we know what we're talking about. Like, people of color.
All right, we got
like,
a first-time chat
like,
from Tony. Thanks, Tony. I don't know. Thanks, but Tony's here. Tony with 2 Y's 1117 says, here's what comes down to. If you are liberal, the likelihood of you getting canceled is far less likely than if you are a conservative. Political affiliation is a big part of cancel culture. Ooh, what do you think about that? Deji, what do you think?
Oh, you
Tony,
know how I
thank you.
feel about politics.
Tony, thank you. What do you mean?
I don't pay attention to that shit. We already talked about this.
So you saying it's irrelevant? You can get canceled regardless of what side.
I mean, maybe he has a point, like, because Tony has like more insight. But to me, man, like, why are you trying to? What's the reason for trying to cancel somebody? Are you that offended? Did they personally hurt you? Like, what's happening?
Well, you look at an offender. So Tony, not to. I want to touch on your comment, Tony, as a return question. But like, what is it about? Why is it that conservatives are more target? Is it because they're resistant to want to make the adaptation to a more, like liberal, progressive type of society? Like they're resistant to where the world is actually going? Or is it because liberal is too, like to be liberal is to be less rooted, and therefore it's harder to cancel? Is it a matter of difficulty? Is it harder to cancel a liberal versus a conservative? And sorry about that, chat. We had a slight disconnection there in the connection. Nice, easy recovery. All right. So Dej, I was talking about. You said, are you so offended that you want to cancel somebody? Okay. Obviously, if you commit a crime, you're punished, right? And if this person has committed a crime, let's say towards you or your family, you probably don't want this person to come back from punishment and make it back into society, right? Like they go to jail.
They stay there.
But what if they serve their sentence, they come out? Jail is supposed to be, prison's supposed to be like rehabilitation, right? Not just punishment. So they come back out and they're gonna try to make it back into the world, into society. Cancel culture now. The original person who was assaulted, let's say they serve it's a life sentence. Maybe they were 20 years old or 18 years old when they committed their crime, assault, and they serve life. But life is 25 and they're out at 25 years. So they are now 43 years old.
Dang.
Right? So would cancel culture, would that count as cancel culture if you're like, I don't want this person coming back in society. This person is a sex offender and sexual assault. They should stay in jail and not come back out and, be accepted back in society. Even though this guy, let's say this guy went through therapy, went through a bunch of like repentance and all that stuff going through the jail system. Like, who's right there?
All right, I think the cardinal rules are like anything that has to do with like kids or like killing women or killing kids. It's just like, nah. Like, nah, no rehabilitation for you. Straight to the gulag for you, sir.
Okay.
But like
With kids,
anything
okay.
else, like fucking breaking and entering, like assault, battery, all that bad stuff.
Murder.
It depends.
Okay.
Like if you're killing kids or like killing women, to the gulag for you. But if it's like self-defense, if you like killed a person because you like grew up in a rough neighborhood and you just didn't know how to channel your aggression, you know, it's like it's this wide spectrum of things, right? But there's things on that spectrum that are just like, I think generally accepted as unforgivable.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. Fair.
So yeah, I think under all of that, to your point, yeah, they shouldn't get like canceled. You know, they should have a chance to come back or whatever. If that's what you were asking, right?
Well, I took it to the extreme end of the offense was actually punishable by law. But when we look at cancel culture today, there is no offense. It's just opinion. Like, the act isn't criminal law. The act is something that someone else found offensive, and therefore that someone else wanted to take away the livelihood of that person for saying something offensive. That, which sounds ridiculous. That sounds ridiculous when you just put it in those terms, right?
Yeah. I mean, like on a more like lower tier level, I guess you could liken it to, you know, you saying something just as a joke and someone else like getting offended, and because they're in a position of power, they just like punch you in the face and like, I don't know, break your nose or something.
Okay.
And like maybe okay, so let's say like you make a joke about like a fat girl, like, right? And you're just like this like scrawny kid or whatever, and then a fat girl gets pissed off and she just like storms over and like punches you in the face and like breaks your nose. But is she gonna get in trouble because she's a girl? Like, does that make sense? Is that like parallel? Is that a good analogy? Or does that just sound like I have like unresolved trauma?
Well, I'm trying to equate, like, I'm trying to figure out, was the canceling
'Cause
done by committing the assault?
Because
After...
I'm just trying to liken it to like cancel culture is like someone saying something offensive, and then someone that's deemed as like a vulnerable population, but they're in a position of power, going out of their way to like knock you down career-wise or professional-wise or like financial-wise.
Yeah.
So like on a lower level, that's like you saying something in like as a joke, and then like a girl who's deemed as vulnerable, but she's a big-ass girl, comes and like fucking assaults you.
Yeah.
But like nothing happens to her, and everyone just kind of like makes fun of you. I don't know.
Okay. Tony says, cancel culture is a tactic because people that do the canceling cannot debate on ideas. So it's like, I can't argue with you in an intelligent way. Let me just take away your ability to argue against me.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, actually.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And where you're saying the canceling comes from a place of power, that power just comes in numbers. Like, you can get that power by just mere support, like how many people are agreeing with you, right?
That too, yeah.
Majority is technically power.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
There's power in numbers.
Like, I gotta say, in a personal example, when I look at a YouTube video and I click play, and I know it's something maybe a little bit relatively controversial, and I see the likes to dislikes ratio, if the likes, more often than not, are substantially more than the dislikes, but when they are relatively equal, I judge. That affects what I think this content's gonna be. And then when I see the thumbs down way higher than the thumbs up, that I almost like just will stop watching the video. Like, I won't even continue watching it, right? So there's the power there by just majority numbers of, is the dislike button cancel culture. Oh!
Okay, how about this? That's a good point, actually, because when I think about it, like, I'm the type of person that would watch the whole video, though, regardless, like, of how many thumbs down. Because I always, like, really try to be objective with those things. Because a lot of that is, like, groupthink.
Yep.
You know? A lot of times I'll, like, watch the video and then look at the thumbs. Yeah, that's what I usually do. I'll, like, watch the video first and then look at the thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah.
So I'll be like, all right, let's see what the rest of these motherfuckers think.
Other people agree or not, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that helps me judge better. It's the same way I am with movies. Like, so many people told me After Earth was trash. And for the longest time, I didn't watch it. And then I was like, let me watch this movie. That movie is fire.
What was After Earth again?
That was Will Smith and Jaden Smith.
Yeah, I didn't find it. Yeah, that was pretty good.
So many people told me that shit was trash. Yo, it was trash. Yo, on the internet, oh, that's, yo, After Earth was trash. That shit was crazy.
All right, we got comment from Tony again saying, protecting speech, even hate speech, is part of the foundation of democracy. Good speech do not need protecting. You should not silence ideas. The good ideas will win out. If you silence the bad ideas, you end up in a vacuum. Yeah, I think we already kind of we already kind of went over that in the beginning. Like, it's not about censorship. Everyone should still be held accountable for the opinion they're willing to openly communicate. But they must also suffer the consequences based on whatever that opinion holds. Like, if it's ridiculous and, like, the vast, again, maybe even vast majority, maybe not even vast majority, but let's say it's a minority, but a minority of 1 million people is still a shit ton of people. So, like, even if it's if a large amount of the audience will still have a negative response to your comment, the purpose is not to silence that person, but they can suffer the consequences of their position, you know? And if they wish to argue it further, because they're not going to say, you know, they're not going to be, like, canceling out the 40% of that population, they're probably going to try and defend themselves and communicate further. But yeah, that's the freedom of speech. We're not going to censor them, be like, okay, you're dumb, you can't speak anymore, type of thing, you know?
Yeah, I think everyone should be allowed to say how, like, you know, how do you really feel? Tell me how you really feel. But you gotta get these hands if what you're saying is crazy. You know, because I think that's important. Like, let everyone know. Like, let's all put our cards on the table.
Like, I can see examples of, it's probably more from movies though, where, like, you have two really opinionated individuals with opposing thoughts, with opposing positions, having an argument. One, let's say, is visibly and identifiably stronger and more physically threatening than the other. So you have two people probably having somewhat of an intelligent exchange, and then the brute reaches a point where he starts to hear such opposing and opposite comments from the weaker of the two, where he's like, if you don't stop, I'm about to put your foot in your mouth, type of thing, right? Like that it becomes from an exchange of, like, ideas to now a threat, because this person can't stand the you know what I mean? Have you seen that example or something like that?
I'm just picturing a big ass dude putting his little ass dude's own foot in his mouth. Sorry, go ahead. I was like, holy shit, that would suck.
So Mike's saying Hitler's ideas won out in Germany. It's crazy. You're right. It came from a position of power, and I think a lot of the people who agreed with him also had a position of power. But I'm not even going to say, we don't even know how many people disagreed with him, but just remained silent because of fear of death, persecution, right? Like, there was a lot of people opposed to Hitler. We just don't know about it because they feared for their life.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, back to that example, the brute and the beak. You'll lose the stream's back up now, but yeah, if you lose me, so is the stream. The stream's so yeah, if we missed what you said in the last 2 minutes, if you'd like to rewind and do that again, feel free.
I wasn't saying much. It's just gibberish, honestly.
Ryan,
I was just like,
gibberish.
yeah, I was like, yeah, so I don't know what example FJ was going to go into with the big dude and the smaller dude, but it sounded interesting.
Well, what I'm trying to say is, like, I've seen examples of that, but it could have been mainly from movies, though. But it comes from a debate, and it reaches a point where even if that brute is on the side that I might agree with, he takes on an action of cancel culture as soon as he threatens the I'll even say it, the livelihood of the other debater, because it's no longer about longer about the argument. It's no longer about the subject matter. It's now just, I don't want to listen to you anymore. I can't continue this argument. Therefore, I'm gonna make you stop. That's
gonna hurt you.
And that's basically what cancel culture is. Then.
Yeah. That's it.
I don't necessarily think that it comes from. It doesn't that necessarily needs to start from a position of power, but for the cancel to actually be successful, you definitely need power behind you. You need support, right? Okay, we got another comment. I don't know if you're following along. Are you? Can you see it
on the stream? 1 sec. I'll log in.
So, Mike did say Hitler's ideas went out in Germany. Tony says, in regards to Hitler, yes, he had supporters and came to power, but he made sure he wiped out his opponents. His brown shirts are the modern day cancel culture mob. Well, there we go. Yeah. He made sure that anyone who had influence, or even not even influence over the masses, because again, people were still stayed, undercover. People were still hiding and pretending that they were supporting, but really they were smuggling Jews across and stuff like that. But yeah, he was like cancel culture to the actual extreme of. It's not even just him. I'm sure there's other assassination type attempts to even war. Isn't war the same thing in general? Just war?
What do you mean?
Even any war right now going on in the Middle East. You can't stand the argument in an open communication between two parties. Therefore, they decide, okay, we'll just kill them. Is warfare? War is the ultimate cancel culture. It's you disagree with me? All right, we're gonna bomb you, and so you don't exist anymore.
I guess, but I think with cancel culture, it's war is just just human conflict, a lot of that has to just do with how humans handle conflict, because a lot of conflict stems from not being able to communicate properly. So when you don't understand something, you fear it, and when you fear it, you attack it, right?
Yeah.
But I think with cancel culture, it's more about, I don't want to reason with you, even though you may have a legitimate thing you're saying, and I have the option to just do nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go out of my way. It's like spite, I'm gonna go out of my way to make sure that you no longer have the ability to, do what you've been doing for the last little bit.
Yeah.
It's you could see how, I could see the parallels, but I just feel when it comes to war and stuff like that, it's that's a little different. That's just human, that's just humans being human beings.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. You're right. It's warfare. I might have said is an extreme form of cancel culture, but it's more it goes beyond taking the livelihood of the other person. That's like just taking the life.
Yeah.
It's just straight up taking their life.
It's just like, we're gonna kill you.
So Mike said he meant with Hitler as an example of hate speech being allowed to run without consequence. I'm gonna say not so much as a contradictory statement to that, but I don't think it was allowed to run without consequence. Like
Wait, sorry, say that again?
So Mike said Hitler was the example of hate speech being allowed to run without consequence.
Okay.
But I mean, the consequence was a united world going against him and like stopping Germany. That was the consequence. It wasn't allowed to run. It's just he came from a place of power and influenced the right people for his movement. It always had like it always had the strength support behind it, and just based on, I guess, the way it was presented. It's almost like a white supremacist guy like spouting words that appeal to the KKK, right? Like it's gonna be that kind of instant reception, instant support, push it forward. But the consequence was obviously the rest of society would look at that and be like, that's ridiculous, and then there was going to be countermeasures. Tony says there's a difference between hate speech versus actual genocide. Yes, in Hitler's case, the hate speech preceded the genocide. An example of hate speech being allowed to run without consequence. But again, I don't necessarily. I will say, yeah, he had his own kind of mind made up on what it was supposed to be. He spewed his words. I just don't think it was without consequence. It just he had too much time, and I'm not even gonna say freedom. Like, that's what the country is. Like, you're supposed to be free to be able to say what you want to say. It's just that there were enough people supporting it and agreeing with him that gave him that momentum to bring it to that level. Where, yeah, obviously unfortunate, like the Holocaust and like obviously the wiping out of so many innocent people. All for free speech. Hate speech included to a degree, I guess. But obviously, what can you do to prevent things like Hitler from happening? That's why we cannot forget about the Holocaust.
Yo, so what's did you ever get into like 4chan and all that? Do you know what that is?
4chan. That sounds familiar.
4chan?
4chan is like the Reddit back then, wasn't it?
But it wasn't for like trolls or something?
I don't know. I thought it was like Reddit. For trolling, like 8chan. 4chan.
There's an 8chan?
I feel like there was. Let's look it up right now.
Anyway, the reason I was bringing that up is because like I always feel like they always like were in the news for like saying some wild shit or like doing some wild shit. And like I stumbled on this site called Encyclopedia. What the fuck was it called? It was like some weird site, dude. It was like Encyclopedia something. And it was just like, it was like people that, like it was basically built like Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But it like all the entries and all the like little things were like written by like someone that sounded like they came from like that 4chan space. It was all like troll like language and shit like that. But like, I gotta find this shit and send it to you. It was so weird. It was like a different part of the internet that I like randomly stumbled upon.
Yeah, it says I googled 4chan versus 8chan, and one of the results
Encyclopedia
is
Dramatica.
CNN.com says 4chan and 8chan are hotbeds for racism, sexism. It's up soon.
Yeah, but anyway, I found the site. It's called Encyclopedia Dramatica.
Okay.
It's a weird fucking place, dude.
Okay.
It's like a whole platform that's built like Wikipedia, but it's just like ran by like trolls, man. But yeah.
So it's you read this stuff. It's meant to promote hate?
Okay, so Encyclopedia Dramatica, also known as ED, is a reference-style parody and satire wiki that acts as a central catalog for drama, memes, and other mostly internet-based people and events that its members find interesting or lulzy.
Okay.
And you know what's categorized under lulzy? Shit like the Holocaust. Like it's like I just randomly stumbled on this fucking shit, man. And I'm just like, yo, this shit is allowed on the internet? Like, holy.
It's like borderline, like dark web stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, ED is a homophobic, racist troll wiki whose stated mission is to document internet culture, memes, and drama for the lulz.
For just, yeah.
Yeah, man. Anyway. Yeah, the internet's like, give me a...
Okay. So, I mean, were you bringing up that example as like, is this a, would you say something like that shouldn't exist? Should that be censored? Is that free speech?
No, I mean, like, I don't think, like, I think the internet, you know, should have, it's the internet. Like, I think the internet is like even a place that, I was gonna say is like beyond free speech, but that doesn't make sense. But it's the internet. Like, everything is on the internet. So
Yeah.
I don't think it should be canceled. I was just bringing that up because that was a really interesting form of speech that you don't really see like in your day-to-day, like, you know, regularly. So I was just surprised to like stumble on it on the internet like that, and surprised that it was so popular, you know, because it looks like a lot of people are on this platform. So it just goes to show, maybe, like, you know, in culture, people feel censored, people feel like they can't say shit.
Okay, remember earlier when I said, like, should some things not be joked about? And I was like, no, I think anything can be comedy. Because it's the subject matter isn't what I find funny or not. It's the comedian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, now let's talk about the memes and whatever is in this website that you found, or even the dark web, or even like where straight up we know the content itself already goes against, I guess, what we would deem as common sense. Would you say?
Or acceptable.
Well, I don't know now. Like, I wouldn't consider racism common sense. Like, let's see. There are comedians that made jokes about rape and pedophilia. Somehow they aren't canceled. Yeah. Okay, I have to allow this message for it to be shown in the chat. So,
Yeah, Dave Chappelle.
was it Dave Chappelle?
He was one of them. Like, remember the fucking, I haven't felt that dirty since I was molested by a priest.
Right. But yeah. But he was, again, he was the participant. Like, in his example, he was the participant.
He was the victim.
Yeah. Well, even
still,
in the other
like,
sense of, like, when he was fighting someone, he described, you know, I'm trying to think of other examples. Because I mean, I guess I if a comedian can somehow make pedophilia funny, is that even possible? Maybe it's not even so much that should it be a subject of comedy, but straight up, is it even possible to be made a subject of comedy? You know what I mean? Not a should, but like could. You know what I mean?
I don't think I've heard a good pedophilia joke.
I don't think I can. Like, even the one where he's like, when he mentions the priest, right?
Yeah,
and
that was like.
I didn't even. I think everyone found it like so ugh, and I think I reacted to the reaction of the audience more than I actually reacted to the content of that joke, because I didn't find it funny. Like, I'm thinking about it now too. It's like, oh, don't be mad. I liked it. I'm like, is that supposed to be funny then? It's like, no, remember he said that at the end, like, you know, I didn't. Yeah. I don't know, man. I didn't even. Yeah, I didn't like that joke. I don't know why he threw it in there. It didn't even need to be there. The last time I was that offended, because why was he offended again? Like, or what? Felt uncomfortable.
Felt that dirty.
Yeah. What was it? What was he feeling dirty about? Sarah Silverman made pedophile.
When he got
like boys.
When he got COVID.
Oh right. Yeah. Like touching doorknobs and stuff.
Yeah. Hi, take this to your family.
Right, take this to your family. Giving out money, right? Yeah, must have killed thousands. Like, I found it funny when he equated not getting sick to Asian hate. Like, obviously, I am not pro Asian hate, but somehow he made a tie to COVID with that scenario. That was like, well, damn. Okay, I mean, that's, you gotta hand it to that affiliation there. That was pretty good. I found it comical, not because it was funny, but simply because of like the ingenuity of that, of what it took, the creativity of what it took to bring that to like to something relevant. That's what I applauded. I don't even know if I found that funny. I was just impressed with the ability to make that content. Yeah, that context was impressive. I don't know if I found it funny. Yeah,
that was like an optimized, like, because what did Kevin Hart's what does Bill Burr say about Dave Chappelle? There's no fat. Like with his comedy, it's like it's straight, like just like. That was such an optimized joke.
Yeah.
You know?
He knew his setup too, and he could barely hold it in his face. I remember seeing it too.
That's probably what's going on inside my body.
I was seeing on TV. I was disgusted. How could this be happening?
My beloved black people, my beloved Asians.
But I couldn't help but think, this is probably what's happening in my own body right now.
Oh, man.
Oh, it was just like...
I just sat in that hotel room, got stronger all week. Oh, man. Great.
Which made me wonder if he wanted to, because he got vaxxed, right? And he even said he got Johnson & Johnson. He was openly about like the protocol that he was taking. He's wishing everybody well. But that joke made me wonder if he thought the whole COVID thing was a hoax. It made me wonder the way he positioned that joke. If he was trying to put in the innuendo that all this is bullshit, you know?
I don't necessarily think so. I just think like he was making a joke about not getting symptomatic.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I want to say like he probably knows someone that like died from COVID or something like that, you know. So like I think we can't necessarily say that just because like the type of comedy Dave does, it's like, you know, he can laugh and make you be endeared with this like transgender comic while at the same time knowing, oh yeah, she actually killed herself, and I'm actually gonna make a joke about her death because she would have enjoyed that joke. Like his brain is just like, you know. So I don't think we can necessarily say, oh, because he's making a joke about not getting symptomatic during COVID means he doesn't believe COVID is like real, right. You know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kyrie got canceled on top 75 list due to his vax stance. How does Kyrie not make the list? Oh. I don't know what the top 75.
Okay, so what's that about? What is that?
List. Even Hibbert, apparently.
That sounds like some cancel culture.
I heard about something recently too. What is top 75? list. What is this? Full list of
Really?
players revealed as league top 75 NBA players, just in general of like is it based on statistics or just like opinion? I heard about this today. Something about like Iverson, someone Hayes, and they skipped Hibbert or something like that. All time. Kyrie over Chris Paul all day. Kyrie over Chris Paul all day. I'd agree. I'd have to agree with that. But Iverson over all of them.
Damn, Tony Park. Vince Carter ain't on that list? Are you guys crazy?
All time though? There's a lot, dude. I mean, I don't know who's in it.
Yeah, but like, okay, what's all time like greatest fucking hold on, what is this ad blocker bullshit? Get out of here.
I have to accept some. Pause.
Vince Carter's not on that list. What the hell?
What? Ray Allen is number 2? These are not rankings. The players below are listed in alphabetical order. As a result of a tie, the team features 76 players. Okay, it's
Tracy
not a ranking.
McGrady isn't on that list? God damn.
Who the heck is Paul Arizin? Dave Bing? Who's that? Elvin Hayes? I think I heard of that guy. Sam Jones? Nope. Who the heck is Bob McAdoo? Klay Thompson got pissed that didn't make it. Haha. We are biased to Canadians. Willis Reed. Dominique. Is Jordan on here?
Wow.
Obviously.
Tony Parker, eh? Even with 4 NBA titles.
Chris Paul shouldn't be on there, right? If we're thinking about all the peeps. Chris Paul shouldn't be on there.
Pau Gasol isn't on there. Wow, that's crazy.
I don't know if Gary Payton deserves to be on there, man.
He's up there.
I don't think I put him up. You know, is Steph Curry? Steph Curry's got to be on here. There he is. Okay.
Who put together this list? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, eh?
Stockton. Okay, yeah. If you're like a record holder, that's a no-brainer. If you hold any record in NBA history, I do think, well, despite turnovers, as long as you don't hold the record for turnovers, any other stat on this in of all time, if you hold a record in any kind of stat, then I'll give you top for sure. They needs to get behind T-Mac and Grant Hill. Tracy McGrady isn't on here?
Nope, neither is Vince Carter. Russell Westbrook? Are you fucking serious?
Yo, but Grant Hill isn't even on here, dude. Hill's dirty. Westbrook, dude, you have to. He's got like the most triple doubles. Like, you have to.
Fine.
You have to. So I don't like him, but you have to.
No, it's not that I don't even like him. I'm just thinking like him over like Vince, yo. Like,
yeah,
Vince.
I gotta
like,
put him over Vince too.
Dude, greatest of all time.
Yeah, but Vince was lazy.
Vince was like, this is the thing though. Vince Carter's like story. Enough. Like Vince Carter's story alone should have like put him on that list.
What do you mean?
Came from Toronto, considered like the greatest dunker of all time. Anytime he came back to Toronto, he was always booed. But he always like, yo, his Toronto games were always nuts, bro. Like he always came to Toronto and shit on the Raptors.
Well, okay, hold on.
And then like just how he's had the longest career of like any NBA player.
It kind of makes sense to me though, because he was all talent and minimal work. He was regarded as somebody who just didn't work. He didn't put in the time. He wasn't dedicated like a Kobe. He was just gifted, you know?
Man, I don't know, man. I think just like the story alone, maybe not necessarily like the talent or whatever, like, or the championships, but just like, yo, it's Vince Carter.
Well, there's a bunch of names in here I don't even know, so yeah, I'd give Vince Carter a spot in there too. Carter, the only one Kobe said he wouldn't do dunk contest 1v1 with.
What? Are you crazy? Hell no. Who's gonna do that?
Yeah, man, Carter's the greatest dunker of all time. I put him above
Easily.
Zach LaVine, like
Easily.
yeah.
That's
Zach,
not even.
Zach
That's not
LaVine's
even
just
a
the
discussion.
jumper. It's not. Yeah, Toronto 100% tried canceling Vince.
Yo, I
Well,
remember
because
watching
Toronto's
the first game.
they're such traitors to like actual players, man. They like as soon as a player decides to leave, like Toronto hates. Like that's just what they do.
Son, I remember watching the very first game that Vince Carter played as a New Jersey Net in Toronto with my entire like family and like a whole bunch of like my family friends.
Yeah.
Do you remember that game?
No.
Yo, okay, so the whole game, anytime Vince touched the ball, the crowd
Booze,
would
right?
boo them. Yo, they would boo this motherfucker. Yo, all game,
Yeah.
right? And it was like so close. At the end, I think New Jersey was down 2, and Toronto and the Raptors were up. The Raptors were up 2, right? Yo, Vince, it's like 2 seconds left. Vince just gets the ball from Jason Kidd and just shoots this long ass 3. Everyone's just looking at the ball in the air. That shit just hits the swish. Oh my god. That was like the most painful dagger, but like also like the most like sweetest, because they were booing him all game, but it's
Yeah.
like, yo, this is my fucking court. Shut the fuck up.
That's what I mean. Like I wouldn't have. Would you have booed Vince Carter?
No.
I don't
yo, that
understand
shit felt
who these
amazing. I
Toronto.
was like, yo,
who are these Toronto
like,
people, man? Like I don't understand why Toronto is known for like these traitorous type of behavior. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Like Paul Pierce spent his entire career in the Celtics. He spends his like final seasons with Washington, and his last game at the Gardens in Boston, they loved him. Like they like, you know, like
yeah, but the Toronto, like they made amends with Vince.
Yes, they
toward the
did.
end. Like yeah,
and
you know?
I get that, but like even let's say those boos, like I can't think that the people booing him truly felt hate. I would see it more of a sarcastic boo to troll him because he's now an opponent and he's playing at home. A troll move, not a disrespect move, you know? Like it wasn't vicious.
Oh yeah.
Got a
No,
high five
oh
from
bro, it
Vince.
was vicious, man. It was vicious, man. Like that alone should put him on this list. Because anytime he came back to Toronto, bro, like it was laughable. Like it was just like revenge every time. You know.
I mean, yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, this is a different list. You know, you make Hall of Fame, you make Hall of Fame. But like, this is stupid. This list, I don't know who makes this list, but it doesn't matter.
And Kobe said T-Mac is the hardest person he's ever had to guard, yo.
Yeah, I remember.
T-Mac is my favorite player.
Yeah.
So I was like,
We've had this
yeah.
combo. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, obviously later T-Mac, not young T-Mac, not Toronto T-Mac, but like Rockets, Orlando T-Mac.
Tony said he got a high five from Vince one time.
Yeah.
Thought he'd never wash his hands again. Like,
Should have like, I don't know, like made a copy of that hand that day. Save the bacteria. All right. I think we've. The one thing I want to go back on, the last thing, just to go back, was the jokes about rape and pedophilia by Sarah Silverman and Patton Oswalt, whoever it is. I can kind of recall Sarah Silverman making a joke about like a hot boy, like some young kid who she probably wanted to have sex with or something, and tries to make it so risque that it's funny. And I can't see, no matter what kind of light, like again, even Dave Chappelle couldn't do it. Even Dave Chappelle couldn't do it with the.
yeah, that's another societal like double standard. I think she wouldn't come under such fire for that, because you often hear the trope, oh, if I was a young kid in high school and the hot like teacher was like making the moves on me, of course I would do it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think like when you look at it from that lens, that's probably why she wouldn't come under fire like that, you know, because the fucking dude said that shit.
Yeah. Dude, I've seen it though, like in high school. Like I've seen the student teachers, whether it be a girl or a guy, I know it's very much possible for both ways to happen, like a female teacher or a male teacher to hit on a student. Like I can see that both scenarios is very possible, but to find comedy in, because let me think about this, man. Like, racism isn't against the law. Racism isn't a criminal offense. I'm trying to think. Has there been criminal offense comedy that's been like hilarious? Well, yeah, I guess he made the one. Okay, sorry. The bit about women should have had a man lead the movement, right?
The Me Too movement?
And he's like, should have been a man, and Dave Chappelle was like, I nominate me. I'll lead you to the promised land. I only ask one thing. Okay, I only ask one thing. I knew where this was going, right? You knew where it was going to when he said that? Okay, and then he said it. He said it, and it was like a ooh. And he looked around, knowing it's ridiculous. I don't know, man.
I kind of found that one funnier. I found that one.
Well, it's definitely better than the church one, but like,
yeah.
But like, it was so. It wasn't clever. It wasn't clever like what's happening inside his body.
Yeah, like
right?
You could kind of see it coming. Yeah.
It wasn't clever. It wasn't like, ooh, that took a lot of thought and ingenuity to figure out. Nah, we knew that setup right from the beginning. Should have had a man.
Yeah.
It should be me. I only ask one thing. We knew it was gonna happen. Like.
Yeah, as soon as he said, I only ask one thing. Yeah, because I didn't know where he was going with it, but as soon as he said that, I only ask one thing, I was like, oh, he's gonna ask for some head.
And then he's like, well, then I guess we're back in this whole circle. And then he just dropped it. He like changed subjects immediately, right?
Yeah.
Because there's nowhere you bring that. you just don't bring that any further. Like. So yeah.
I mean, which might have just been like a random part of his act, a random tangent.
Like even the whole rapes because he saves, Canada does not provide the same protection as the U.S. under the First Amendment. So, dude, remember the Bill Cosby, Superman? This man, he can save lives, but he needs to rape. That guy.
That was a wild premise.
If you think about what that guy did, he's asking. Oh wait, no. He's like, please, I need to touch your whatever. She's like, no, don't touch me, stay away. And then he's like, so he rapes them. And then he gets his powers, and then he can save all those innocent people, right? And we're like, but it was like, he needed a way to figure out how he can tie it in with Bill Cosby, right? Obviously,
yeah.
This whole big circle thing. But like, any kind of context where you have to use the necessity of rape. Yeah, Deji's gone. So we're gonna wrap it up there. We were talking about the last thing. I'm just saying that there is no fine line. I think there is probably some subject matter. It's not so much that it shouldn't be made in the context of a joke. I actually do think there are things that you can't make the context of a joke. It's not the same kind of laughter. It's not the same kind of appreciation for the joke. Like, sure, you might get an awkward kind of an involuntary response from the audience. Let's say if you were to make a joke about, pedophilia or rape, things that, we as a society would have taken specifically as just not acceptable. I do think there are certain things that, not that you should not make into comedy, but you just can't make the subject of a comedy. Anyway, thank you guys for coming out to join us today. Late notice again on subject, and again late start due to the setup, but appreciate your input, guys, in the chat. Tony, thanks for coming, first time commenter, and thanks for taking part in the conversation. Hopefully again we'll see you guys again next week, Thursday, again aiming for 10:30 p.m. Eastern as usual. Guys, if you like this discussion, if you want to take part, please feel free to join us. We're here every Thursday every week, at least we try to be. And leave comments down below too. Feel free to share what you have to say about the content we talked about today. If you have any kind of insight on free speech or cancel culture, we're not for it. We don't think it's a thing that needs to exist. I do think what I'm gonna say is cancel culture itself exists only because we let it. Somehow the influence of these retaliation audience is influencing people of power, let's say the network, maybe it's the producers or whatever it may be. It's influencing them in that manner, and I don't think it should. I don't think anyone should feel the pressure of the public. But take for example, we've seen examples, let's say, of someone spouting racist comments and is caught on camera. And because of these comments, this footage gets submitted to now where this person works. Again, the comments come from someone who's identifiable, and then those comments, or that person who is identified, now has to suffer the consequences of their comments, of their speech. So given that, I don't think that's cancel culture. That's not the mob mentality trying to take away the livelihood of this individual. That is the company taking responsibility now for who they want to choose to represent them. So it makes full sense that you're gonna have, that individual may be terminated for their comments, because it's not who you want to represent your company. So I get that. I don't necessarily, I wouldn't attribute that success to cancel culture. That, like, capturing the footage is circumstance and opportunity, and the information is just passed on to the appropriate individuals, and then that person suffers the consequences of their actions and their comments. So I'm all for that. Cancel culture in the other sense, though, is just having someone have an opinion and then people retaliating because it offends them, but it's not necessarily a subject of like pure understood, or it wasn't like meant to be malicious, you know what I mean? Like there's this like intent of maliciousness and hate that you can take back, and actually they would suffer the consequences. But like, in terms of comedy or whatever it is on Twitter for Kevin Hart or whatever, a costume blackface or whatever like that in the past, that's clearly meant, it was meant, probably out of naivety and innocence, but then they come out later and they apologize and they take ownership for their actions. You don't take it further than that. You don't have to cancel that person further than that. That's just my opinion. If you have anything else to say, please feel free to comment down below. Again, guys, thanks again. If you like this video, click like, click subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when the next one comes out, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Peace. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm out. Stop streaming.